And what a celebration it was for you and your 2000 team, man. How the heck was your weekend?
No, it was good, and the shades don't mean anything. I think I was on with shades with Sarah one day when you weren't on. So some days I rock them, some days I don't. So no, this isn't like some new persona I'm putting on for the show today. But the event was wild, man. I wish we could have won Sunday to kind of cap it off, but it's the first time all of us have been in the same room together. Obviously, a couple of my teammates have passed away. Some coaches have passed away along the way, which is sad. We represented them as best we could in spirit, having pictures and just videos around for the guys that obviously, like I said, had passed. But had a huge event at the Models on Friday, big event at the stadium Saturday. My brother, my nephew was there, which was awesome. My son got to participate. My girlfriend got to participate a little bit. And then Sunday, we're all at the bank. We do Ravens Walk, the band, the cheerleaders, the fans. Oh my God, dude. I got the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up a little bit because it's Bob. I don't know when we're going to be able to ever do that again. It's like, it's one of those things that in the moment, that like, hey, I may never do this again. And my brother's going to have his event and he'll probably let me tag along, but it's not the same. This was my event. His event is his event. And because of how close we are, we get to share that, which is pretty rare, being the only brothers in Ravens history to both have Super Bowl rings. So, and everyone's always kind of cool when he's around or I'm around. Like there's no one's tripping out. Oh, and by the way, we got to go to practice on Saturday. I got to talk to Teddy Buchanan. Oh my God, what an amazing kid. I got to talk to Marlon a little bit. I talked to Keaton in person that day, and I briefly talked to Coach Harbaugh, and obviously I saw Ozzie. I did talk to Steve Bisciotti on Saturday night, and Coach Billick. Yeah, I mean, it was a who's who, guys. Rex, I got to talk to Rex and Marvin. Yeah, dude, I mean, it's like an all-star team in there. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing, guys. Pretty amazing.
So glad you got that experience. I wish it could have been better with a win, and I know you kind of wanted to react to that game. That was kind of what was going on off the field with former teammates and family and all that. So happy for you. But what was your take on the Steelers' loss?
Yeah, no, I think the Steelers game is a microcosm of the season. I thought that they did some pretty good things. They really outplayed the Steelers in the second half. I think the first half, you'll give it to Pittsburgh. I guess it was 17-3 at halftime. Obviously, you have the penalty that kind of led to some of that scoring, and they were a little bit out of sorts. But I think that on paper, when you look at the game, let's assume that half by half, I give the first half to the Steelers, the second half to the Ravens. The Ravens had the ball for 7 more minutes. They had almost 100 more yards. They had 8 or 9 more first downs. They were 7 for 18 on third down and 3 for 4 on fourth down. That's winning football. I know people don't realize it. And Bobby, you throw out third down quite a bit. If you convert more than 40% of your third downs, you're in the top 10 in football. Like this is a known fact over decades. Brian Billick always made this statistic a known thing. Like I'll give you an example. Chicago Bears right now have a 44.5% third down conversion rate. They're 5th in the NFL. So you don't need to be over 50% on third down. But I know that if you look at the game, you can say there was the Rashad Bateman drop. I think there was a ball to Derrick Henry that Lamar was one of those layups. So there was more conversions out there. But my point is that nobody plays perfect football. No team's going to go out there and play flawless. The team who makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win. And I think that statistically, the Ravens dominated the game. I think the two areas where we will say that Pittsburgh won is the Ravens lost the turnover battle. And I think there was one. Oh, they also lost the average per play battle. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily a statistic that bodes a win or not. The turnover ratio does. But I think for me, and this goes back to Jeff and Bobby, maybe you to some degree, and even Coach Coleman. Derek and I have talked. Derek and I are the same age. Derek and I can talk ball all day long. And through him being on your show and me being on your show, he and I have sidebarred numerous times. And can you imagine he and I in a conversation? We're supposed to have like a 10-minute conversation. It went 90 minutes, right? Like you guys would, X's and O's was bonkers between he and I. We have a lot of the same background in regard to how we analyze fronts, coverages, and protections. So one day we'll discuss that further. But I think what ends up happening is that we and Bobby, you're super professional about it because I know at the end of the day, your job, and I think Jeff's is too, is that you're trying to be objective. But I think that when teams constantly shoot themselves in the foot, which if you watch all 32 teams, they all do it at some point. But when you're 6-7, you've earned your record. So the Ravens have done it at a higher frequency this year than they have in the past. And it's almost like they no longer get the benefit of the doubt from the people that used to be objective about it. Now it's just like, hey, you got outplayed, you had a chance, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And where this leads to is two things. One, all of a sudden now Jeff has a question if Lamar's regression is related to his teammates or if it's him. It's absolutely not him. Like, I mean, the fact that he's even not sure, to me, the idea that he's floating the idea that at 28 years old, Lamar is not the same athlete that he was a couple years ago when we all have eyes. And to use your phrase that I know irritates people, I'm young enough, or is it I'm old enough? Is it I'm old enough to remember the Bills game? I'm old enough to remember what Lamar has done recently in recent history. I look at other comps and other quarterbacks that are his age or older that have bad moments, for whether it's them in regard to their health or whether it's their teammates. It's never really one thing. It's a culmination of things. To think that Lamar at 28, when I see my son's a track athlete, I watch athletes go PR in their mid-30s. I'm talking about guys running sub-10, which is unheard of 10, 15, 20 years ago, but they're doing it right now. Athletes have so many tools at their disposal. I am 10 toes down. This is not a Lamar losing his superpower thing. I'm 10 toes down on that. The offensive line, for example, has regressed in every single statistical category in regard to pass protection, run blocking, a clean pocket, pressures from a year ago. They were top 5 in some categories, top 8. Like, they were top 8 in most categories. They're like the worst. They're like at the bottom 8 of most categories now. The trickle-down effect of poor line play is going to affect you psychologically and physically. And Lamar is bearing the brunt of it physically. And the idea that people, and this is the point I'm trying to make, I've watched Coach Coleman kind of ask questions about, and I know he loves Lamar. I know he's a Lamar fan. Jeff as a beat writer, I know it's his job to be more objective, but I've kind of watched him slowly give less objectivity and is almost, maybe because he's around it so much, it's almost like he's leaning more toward the negative and floating things that I don't think he would have floated 7 weeks ago. Like, we're literally in the same season. And so for me, I'm willing to stand 10 toes down and remember that the MVP of this season, in my opinion, is going to be Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is 37 years old. He's 9 years older than Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers won his first MVP at 27 years old. He won 3 more at age 31, 37, and 38. Are we all going to sit here and say Lamar Jackson's not going to win another MVP? Are we all going to sit here and say Lamar Jackson's not going to average 6-7 yards a carry, run for 600 or 700 yards in the next year, maybe throw 40 touchdowns? Are we all going to say that Lamar's stifled and locked in time? His peak was a year ago. Do we really believe that? I put way more blame on Coach Monken and way more blame on this offensive line than I do on Lamar. Lamar can definitely work on things. No one is above reproach. No one is above a critique. But I think we've really lost our way in regard to how we place blame and how we analyze this team now. I think people are just frustrated. The idea that people are saying that they don't want to see them play a playoff game, that is blasphemy for an athlete. I was on a team that didn't score a touchdown for 5 weeks. I watched my brother's team lose 3 games in a row at the end of the season, and we both have Super Bowl rings. What if we took that approach and said, oh, we don't want to watch them play. We just want it to end because we want a higher draft pick. That's blasphemy. That's fucking bullshit, straight up. I will never, ever, ever, ever capitulate, abdicate, bend, break, bow, ever. If I have a heartbeat and brainwaves, please believe your boy's going to show up and fight all day long. And anyone that says anything different, you ain't a fucking athlete, straight up. Sorry, Sarah.
Man. Well, I mean, you kind of repeated what I said, but with a different tone for sure.
Oh yeah, your boy is on one. Yeah, I'm on one. Yeah, straight up, because I've been listening to this stuff for a while now, and it's ridiculous. And this is the thing: I listen to everything. I watch every show. I'm in every chat. I hear all of it. And not just your guys' show. And by the way, your guys' show is the #2 show of all the shows that I watch and all the content that I take in. Your show, your guys' The Vault is #2. Bobby Baltimore.
Number 1 in Ravens, right?
No,
Ravens content.
number one, yeah, number one in Ravens for sure. But the number one thing that I watch is Sarah, I told you this, I'm into the markets and into the economy. So like the number one show that I watch, because I'm investing, right? It's my money. That's the number one thing that I watch, but this is right behind it. And what I'm saying is I watch the national media, I watch the local media, I listen to the fan, I work for 98 Rock, I work with Dennis Pitta. Like I live and breathe this 24/7. And I make it my mission. Although I wear an analyst hat, a former player's hat, and a fan's hat, and a collaborative content hat, I never want to get too far from the middle. I always want to make sure that I'm being respectful and humble about the way that I take in content and the way that I frame things based on what people think, people say, and what people do. And so I'm super sensitive. It's maniacal. It is part of my compulsion and obsession to make sure I don't drift too far from the middle on anything. And if I ever do, please believe I'm gonna be the first one to say, hey, my bad. I went too far on that. That's not correct. And I think right now the frustration and the negativity around the Ravens has gone in such a toxic place for me. I don't even know what to say. The fact that people are literally going on air and saying they don't want to watch a Ravens playoff game. Nah, man, we can't do that. So go ahead. Sorry about that, guys. But that's how I feel. And it's pent up, obviously, but that's where I'm at right now.
No, it's all well said on Lamar. I don't think either one of us are pushing back on that whatsoever. One of the
or
things
on not wanting to see winning or playoff games. I'm with them on that too. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
And I think we see some of that in the live chat, and I'm not sure who you're referring to in terms of on the air, who's saying that type of thing. But obviously that probably comes with a level of fatigue based on their underperformance. But as you know well, wild card teams in the past have gotten a complete clean slate and erased all of their subpar play that led up to that point and created a new season out of the month of January and into February. I grew up a Giants fan. I saw it twice.
Absolutely.
And the Ravens know a darn thing or two about that. So what you mentioned, one of the many things that you do outside of your day-to-day work is 98 Rock. And you and Dennis Pitta will get on with Kirk and Marianne from time to time throughout the season and have different levels of conversation about where the Ravens
every Monday. We shoot that every Monday, by the way.
Thank you. So Dennis Pitta, from a tight end's perspective, shared some interesting insight on Isaiah Likely. I want to get your thoughts on the other side of it. Here is that clip courtesy of 98 Rock Baltimore.
Put some blame on Isaiah Likely. Because last week, so you talked about the Kansas City thing, and I agree. He's trying to make a play. His toe came out of bounds. There's nothing you can do about that. Last week was an issue. He was nonchalant with the football, trying to reach it across for no reason. He was going to be in the end zone. His whole body was going to finish in the end zone regardless. A completely unnecessary play. If you go back in this game to Isaiah Likely's first touchdown and you watch what he did when he caught that football, he caught it and then immediately protected it like this. And there wasn't anybody around him, but he thought maybe there might be some hands that come to shoot through late. And so you see him in a urgent situation, catching the ball and protecting it. Now, in this particular play, he reached out, caught it, and kept it. He could have done the same thing. I've watched this 100 times now. He could have easily caught it and immediately clutched it and had an additional security against his chest with both hands before the defender's hands came around his body to try to knock the ball out.
From one tight end to another, past and present there, Fem. You were there on that show. Your thoughts on his commentary. And two, as you look at Femi, as you look at Isaiah's last couple of weeks, heck of a player, right? I mean, there's a lot to like about what he's built himself back up after that foot procedure that sidelined him in the first month. Yet, what's everybody going to remember? The two plays that he didn't make, Thanksgiving night and, of course, just this past weekend.
Man, the Isaiah thing is so difficult for me because I love him as a player. But he doesn't protect the football. He just doesn't. I remember the Pittsburgh game last year in Pittsburgh. He fumbled the football. I mean, he's had other fumbles too. He had a fumble, I think, against Jacksonville. I think maybe somebody recovered, I believe, for him. He is such a talent, and I understand the fandom split on wanting to keep. Well, actually, maybe more people want to keep him than wanted to keep Mark. And I understand that. And I know that sometimes you have to make a choice, but he is a big play waiting to happen anytime that he's on the field. There's no doubt. But Dennis is right. And Matt Ryan gave his analysis on Sunday about why Isaiah kept the ball away from him. There's more than one way to be effective. But if what you chose to do didn't work, it's open to scrutiny, right? That's what's going to happen. There's not one way to do something. So Dennis is correct in regard to the entirety of his analysis, and that's about as fired up as you're going to see Dennis, right? I mean, he's usually pretty even keel. He was pretty irritated. That's not, normally he doesn't even go that far. But I can't argue with what Dennis said. But when listening to Matt Ryan's analysis of it, and by the way, I was a tight end in college. I was a running back in high school, a tight end in college, and then a running back in the NFL. So I've played everything from slot to slot in the backfield. Like, I've done it all as well. And in that moment, it's almost like you want Isaiah to tuck it and almost just roll. Like, tuck it and get down and roll is what you would want to happen. But in that moment, I think Isaiah thinks he's got it. He's extended. And Isaiah's a big, long frame. But guess what? Joey Porter Jr. is an unusual DB, long and lanky. I played against his dad, Joey Sr., for many years. He's a very handsy, grabby DB, but he's good. You know what I mean? So it's frustrating in so many ways, because I understand what Isaiah was doing, but I can't say that Dennis Pitta is incorrect. He is correct. And so the outcome is the outcome. My biggest issue with that play is that we can watch that same play in 10 different games, and 9 of those 10 were called touchdowns, right? And I think the biggest issue that I have now is that when you have two teams, and let's just call them both mediocre for right now, you want that game to be decided by both teams. But because we're frustrated with the Ravens as Ravens fans, and if this had happened on the other side to Pittsburgh, their fans would be saying the same thing. You had other opportunities to win. You could have done this different. You could have done that different. Well, no, we're not perfect. The game is flawed. And what we're hoping is that the refs are seen and not heard, and that they make sure that the game is balanced and that things are called properly, and that the calls that they make or miss don't affect the outcome of the game. Whether we like it or not, qualitatively or quantitatively, their inability or lack of ability or insertion in that game had a minimum 11-point swing. Minimum. 80% of NFL games are decided by 7 points or less. So whether we like it or not, their lack of execution, and by the way, we hold every team to some standard of executing at a high level, but we're not going to hold the refs to the same standard where all of a sudden, well, they're mediocre and they had other chances. No. They're getting paid too, and they need to be more flawless than the players do. Like, they're actually there they're the timekeepers. They're the fairness keepers. It is their job to make sure that everything is balanced. And because we're frustrated with the Ravens, all of a sudden we slide or we skew our judgment on the refs. The refs are judged independently. It doesn't matter what the Ravens did. It doesn't matter what the Steelers did. They have a freaking job to do, and they did not do their job on Sunday. Bottom line. And I'll say this too. There were multiple calls, like the holding call on the final punt was nonsense as well. The holding call on Voorhees, absolutely, that was a holding call for sure. But I'm a believer of the football gods, and I believe that I say this jokingly, obviously, but I believe that it all evens out at some point in a game. Like, from first quarter to fourth quarter, I believe it evens out. That game, those calls did not even out. And those outcomes by those refs and their performance in that game will have a franchise effect long-term, potentially, on where the Ravens end up and where the Steelers end up. And now the game is over and it's done, but I heard Jeff talk about it. I heard Coach Coleman talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it. In some way, they hold the Ravens play accountable, but they don't hold the refs as accountable as they hold the Ravens, when in reality, everyone needs to be held equally accountable. It's not that, oh, well, this isn't as bad as that, so we're not going to look at it. No. We critique all things at all times, regardless of degree of performance. Everything gets critiqued, everything gets judged, and everything matters. I want to make sure we say that about the refs. They had their imprint on that game in a very unfair way. And yes, it did not. I was pissed off about that too. Clearly,
we already know. We already know I was. I've yelled enough on the show about that. But I just want to add to your point where you said you actually expect the refs to perform better than the players. I'm with you, because they have replay. They can stop. They literally. There's been so many times in my life I'm like, man, I wish I could just hit pause on time, because I don't have enough time to get everything that I want done and to do it at a high level. The refs and the replay actually get to pause time and relook at things and rethink about it. Whereas the players and coaches, everything's on a clock. Everything's on a clock. You got to move. Everything's bang, bang. It was the NFL replay that messed it up. Not even the refs on the field with their eyes. It was the replay.
Yes, it was headquarters.
And had cameras. Yeah,
it was headquarters. So the issue, exactly. It was New York. The issue for me is that if that's not a touchdown, then they need to go change that rule, because everywhere else, that's a touchdown everywhere else. And Zay Flowers made the exact same catch against the Rams either last year or the year before, and they called it a touchdown. I watched the same play in another game last week, and they called it a touchdown. So if that rule is, if they're playing to the letter of the rule, then that rule absolutely needs to be changed. You get 2 feet down, you make a football move, you're in the end zone. There's nothing else to do at that point. Anyway, we won't beat that anymore. I think we all agree that that's nonsensical and it needs to be dealt with.